Hello and welcome to True North EV. My name is James. I am joined today by Colin. He is from rural Alberta, right in the heart of oil country. I have a bunch of family actually where he is from. So I want to thank him for joining me today. Welcome to True North EV, Colin, and how are you today?
I'm doing well, James. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for joining me. So, for those that might not know, you are in fairly rural Alberta. You're actually fairly surrounded by a bunch of my family. Um, so
Yeah, fairly surrounded by a bunch of trees. Yeah, it's pretty. We're pretty far north.
yeah.
We're pretty rural here for sure.
Um, what was the first electric vehicle you wanted and why?
Back in I think around 2016, 2017, um, the Tesla Model S caught my eye. I don't really remember exactly how, but I ended up on a Facebook Tesla group forum, and I was seeing, just enjoying pictures of people posting their Model S's and stuff, and it was something new and exciting and different, and I saw one randomly, just kind of parked on the side of the road. I don't know when it was, in the spring when I was in Montreal. I was out in the countryside south of Montreal, and I saw a Model S parked on the side of the road, and I didn't really know what it was, but it looked like something about it just like it made me go over to it and kind of have a look at it, and I didn't really understand that it was fully electric, and things like that. I just saw it sitting there by itself, and I like the style of it. I like the look of it, and I looked it up, and I understood what it was, so I started kind of digging a little more, and I ended up on that Facebook group, and kind of went from there. Yeah.
Awesome. And so, what kind of EV do you currently have?
um, my partner and I have a Model 3, a Tesla Model 3, dual motor long range, 2018.
Nice. And why did you choose the Model 3?
uh, Full disclosure, my partner chose the Model 3. We actually met. I'm going to give you a bit of background, but we actually met on that Facebook group forum that I was talking about. And she's from New Jersey, and we ended up meeting on that forum, and we were just friends, and we were chatting, and we both really liked the black Model S that we were seeing with some people would post these beautiful sunset pictures in California with the big 21-inch arachnid wheels on them, and just beautiful cars. And so we fostered a friendship through our mutual appreciation for that type of car. And then as the Model 3 was announced in, like, what was that, May 2015 or 16 maybe. We shared our what's the word I'm looking for, like we were both patiently kind of waiting and watching that unfold as it was announced and released and stuff, and we bonded over that. So anyway, my wife Nikki bought the Model 3 in New Jersey, and we ended up bringing it here. So the reason she chose the Model 3 was because she very interested in Tesla, very interested in trying the electric car, very interested in environmental, the environmental aspect of owning an electric car. And of course, the dream car is the Model S, but they're a little bit financially more so out of reach.
Yep.
She actually, big credit to her, she actually saved up for 3 years to to put a good down payment on the Model 3 when it came out. So once the Model 3 came out, initially they were offered in rear-wheel drive long range, and she was patient enough, and I was kind of, holding her back, like, just wait, you'll get what you want, you'll get something better, and eventually the time came, and she pulled the trigger on the long range all-wheel drive, and so the reason she chose it was partially, mainly, I guess, financially. It was much more in reach, for someone to get the Model 3 is kind of marketed as a Joe Everybody EV.
Yeah.
As far as the Tesla line goes, perhaps, but anyway, so it was like a kind of I guess you would say it's a stepping stone, perhaps, to something bigger in the future. And I think if I had been in a position to buy one here, I probably would have had the same. I would have had the same way of looking at it.
Yeah.
The Model S is a bit. I think they're a bit easier to get, maybe a little cheaper now, but you're still talking over 100,000 Canadian, and just not really in reach for most of us, for sure. So, but the Model 3 is a nice, and I mean, you get a lot of bang for your buck with the Model 3. So
yeah,
it was a good purchase, and that's the main reason she went for the Model 3 is because it was the best thing she could get.
Yeah.
For an easy payment.
And so with that, I've also noticed you guys took it out drag racing.
Yeah.
I heard actually about this before knowing who it was.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I honestly, we got a really good reception from that, and I think, and we, like, Nikki's actually bumped into people online, on Twitter and as well as on Facebook, who just, like, she'll be saying something to somebody, like maybe she'll be, I mean, you came across her post because she was trying to educate somebody on the actual reality of driving an EV in this type of environment. And, so she's out there doing good work every day. Well, but anyway, so she's come across other people who will jump into a thing before she does, and they'll say, well, actually, I saw a Tesla here, on the drag strip this summer, and it was kicking some butt out there or something, and she's like, yeah, that was me, But yeah, no, we took it. There's the Gear Grabbers is the name of it's a car club, a drag racing car club here in Bonnyville, where we live, and in the summer they have two big events, one in the spring and one in August, and we went to the one in the spring last year. It's kind of like a everybody's welcome thing. You bring whatever you drive. I mean, you show up with anything, and they let you do some times with it, but let you race with it. They teach you. I mean, it was nice because they were, neither her nor I really have any, we're not drag racers. We don't know how these things work. I mean, you see YouTube videos of people drag racing. Light turns green and you go, but there's a bit more to it than that, we went and did that, and she had a ton of fun. We did 9 runs, I think. It was a brutal hot day, which is actually really great for the EV. It was plus 30. People were just wilting out there on the tarmac. They do the races at a regional airport on the runway here. They shut down the runway for a day. Really great relationship with the regional airport. Whatever, they shut down their flights for one day, or they close it down for one day so that we can use the track, and so we can use the runway as a track, and so I mean, we took it just kind of. I mean, I was kind of like, she's fairly new to the area. Last year was her first summer here. And I was like, well, let's take your car. And I talked to somebody at work who has a Mustang Cobra GT or something. And
which is
he was going to
fitting vehicle for that area.
Yeah, it's no, for sure. I mean, that is kind of the like, if you had to pick a car, like a quote muscle car for rural Bonneville, Alberta, it would be a Mustang GT. Like that would be like the picture in the dictionary picture or whatever, you know. So, and I mean, there was like 8 Mustangs there or something, in various states of being souped up or, you know, like with different mods. And I mean, like it was very interesting because I mean, you basically go there and they tell you how to do it, like what to do, how to do it. You know, you have your appropriate safety stuff. You know, we took everything out of the car. I wanted to take the back seat out of the car. I wanted to lighten it up even more, but we just had not to go too crazy with it. But yeah, so, and you line up on the track and you basically, you know, you get your times. It's an 1/8 mile, not a 1/4 mile. So I mean, the 1/8 mile is a huge advantage for her little car. The Model 3 is
great on the 1/8 mile, not so great on the 1/4.
That's right. Yeah, unless you have the luxury of owning a Model S Plaid, you're not gonna like, because basically, I mean, she raced. She was racing anything from, you know, like a guy who had put a cold air intake on his Infiniti, you know, G35 or something, like, you know, like a family sedan kind of car, same as hers. You know, anything from that right up to like a 600 horsepower twin turbo rat rod custom built thing with a parachute on the back and like massive drag slicks and nitrous and the whole, you know what I mean? Like, so like it was a really cool range of vehicles. There were some guys there with some diesel dualies that were like chipped right out and well, like much more than just a chip, but like pulling like the one guy was pulling just under 7 seconds, like stupid fast, but they were only racing each other. But anyway, but yeah, so like wide range of vehicles, and I mean, due to it being an 1/8 of a mile, she was being fairly competitive with some of these like there were some older Camaros and Mustangs, like 70s, with like, you know, like proper drag racing cars, you know, with roll cages in them and stuff that would be 10 seconds kind of thing on a 1/4 mile. And she's relatively competitive against those cars in an 1/8 of a mile with her 4-door grocery getter. So that was part of the fun of it. And I mean, we didn't go to we went just to she loves those older cars, the muscle cars and stuff, and I want her to get to check it out, and I want her to get a chance to race her car, because I mean, really, you can race it anywhere you want, but I mean, it's a little more fun when you have a time to go with it and willing participants. I mean, you know, when you line up next to a minivan at the red light, they don't even know what's going to hit them, but but when you're next to a muscle car, on the runway, you both got the same intention, so it's fun for sure. And we had a blast, and everybody was really really good and really receptive, and the guys were joking around, like things like like who wants to get beat by the Tesla first kind of thing, like, because I mean, she kind of came in there with a bit of a reputation, just because a lot of these guys hadn't really ever seen a Tesla, but they know, because their interest is racing, so they've seen these cars on YouTube, beating Lamborghinis and stuff, like, well, maybe like a Model S P100D or something,
they kind of knew like what electrics could do.
Yeah, exactly. So it wasn't, but at the same time, a lot of people were, I would say, surprised we had a ton of people come by and talk to us about it, and that was kind of my goal, was to just give some exposure, because these people are they're passionate about cars and about racing, and they won't discriminate, really. I mean, some of them may have had maybe some different thoughts, but like, everyone was very good, and everyone was just excited for a chance to see it perform, and so it was fun. It was great, and we had she had like I said, she did 9 runs, I think, and she was putting up 7.55 seconds
Nice.
in the eighth, at 95 miles an hour across the line. So she was competing well against. There was a good few cars there that were definitely quicker, but she was putting up a good fight, and I mean it's just a stock car, which isn't, but it's the thing that I found really cool about it too is super consistent. Like basically her first couple of runs, a bit of beginners jitters or whatever, but basically anything where she really hit the timing for the green light, she was gone. And these, like, some of the ridiculously fast cars with like parachutes and like 3 foot wide back tires, they could catch her by the finish line. Like, she would get out front.
Yeah.
Especially if she beat them at the light, it was a big advantage. But she raced against a couple of guys that, these guys tour Alberta and Saskatchewan all summer racing. So they've done the racing tree. They know the timing. It's in their blood already. But
yeah.
So anytime she beat somebody on the light, she had a pretty good advantage. And but I mean, like, the cars that it was interesting because the profile of the race, like, these guys are, you line up two of these high horsepower muscle cars, and they both have to be gentle at the beginning to make sure they're hooking up. And then as they get faster and as they time, if they're shifting and their timing is good, they accelerate more aggressively towards the end. Now, what happens with the EV is it just leaps off the line. And the first couple of, she raced one fellow, and he said to us after, like, it surprised me, like, how fast she got off the line. And then I was trying to catch up, and I pushed it too hard, and I was breaking loose because he's got massive horsepower. So he's up in third gear doing already 60 miles an hour, and he's almost going sideways trying to catch up to this little EV. Yeah. So they were forced to kind of strategize differently. Whereas with us, we just she just mashed the pedal and you go. There's no shifting. There's no
put it to the floor and go.
Yeah, there's no shifting. There's no maintaining traction. The car maintains traction. You cannot make that thing break loose. The traction control on those cars is an absolute marvel. Like, and people were asking, like, well, can you do a burnout? It's like, no, you just can't. Like, we just don't do that. That's not what it does. But yeah, so I mean, it was cool because, like, she raced the one gentleman, Greg Sawchuk, who's got his custom made that he built from the ground up. It's a rat rod, hot rod, like with a parachute on the back. It's a chopped little thing. But she raced him twice, and they were kind of like, because nobody really wanted to race for Greg because he's so fast, and he's got this really intimidating looking thing, and really, really cool looking hot rod. And so Nikki raced them, and she was able to beat him on the first run, and their race was so close. Because they both got off the line, like, you get the paper after with the numbers, and she got off the line they got off the line within like a 1,000th of a second of each other, and she crossed the finish line like a tenth of a second ahead of them, kind of thing. And that was the one where I was saying earlier, where she left out in front of him, and he was having to slow down because he was breaking traction trying to keep up to her, because he kind of put his little hot rod a little sideways 3/4 of the way down, and he had to let off. But like, as I was saying, like, she gets off the line, and then she crosses the finish line at, like I said, 95 miles an hour. which is, no, that's fast. That's that's a big deal. But these other cars with these high horsepower, they're he crossed the finish line at like 108 miles an hour. So if that track was a foot longer, he would have been ahead. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a super cool thing to experience. I highly recommend to anybody. I don't care what for yourself with your Kona, if somebody's got if you've got a club anywhere around you that does like a free for all thing where you can show up, just put on the track just to see your times. It's so fun. So cool.
And that's what I want to do. We actually have a place not too far that they used to rent out the airport. But again, you're dealing with race cars in an area close to residential houses. So it was kind of frowned upon. I'm not sure if they're going to let them rent again. But again, 8-mile track, except my problem is different from the Tesla. I have a front-wheel drive Hyundai Kona. So I actually have to be like those race cars and essentially let them have that beginning and then go, because I cannot get traction. I will spin the tires.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know how the rear wheel drive like the Model 3 standard range with rear wheel drive or the early long range were only in rear wheel drive. Like the 2017s and some of the very early 2018s were rear wheel drive, and I don't know if they slip much, but I think it would affect your time if you have any type of slippage.
And I know I've taken the Ioniq 5, Hyundai Ioniq 5, out from a local dealership, and in the winter time, and it is only a rear wheel drive, and that I had to force it to try to slip. Sport mode.
Oh, okay.
Trying to find ice. It just had all season tires on, and then it finally slipped. It's that front wheel drive. You're pushing all that weight to the back, taking it off the tires, and it just wants to spin.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I mean, like the traction control is doing all the work, like when you're on the track like that. So it's definitely, that would definitely be a limiting factor, but it would be, I guess that would almost be maybe more fun, because you would have to really harness your your skill and your concentration to improve your times, and you would actually see you'd actually be able to see the improvement in your times if with different maybe different strategies or different if a person went a bunch of times, maybe with different tires or things like that or whatever. But yeah, it would be interesting. We're lucky because it's right here, and it's the airport is a couple of miles from town, so we don't have any noise complaints. So that's a blessing. But Nikki was at the end of the day, she was strongly encouraged to come back again next time, because there any people who didn't get a chance to race it wanted to, and they enjoyed having her there. And I mean, it's the one of the things I enjoyed most, and I mean, I always get a kick out of this. People will come to us and start asking me about my car, and I'll say, well, not actually, it's her car. But one of the cool things about racing was at the event, they have, they run a concession, and they have like a little merch booth and things like that. So like some of these guys have been in this club for, like years and years and years, and they're, middle-aged guys with their, muscle cars and stuff. And I mean, like, this is their thing, like they drag race, and they have these awesome drag racers, and their wives are there running the concession and volunteering and kind of in the background. And the wives would just like come over to Nikki, and they'd be like, hey, it's so cool. Like, we love seeing you out there. Like, it's so cool having, seeing a woman. And like, so that was really cool for us. Like, that was really cool for me to see that, because they were like stoked to have this girl out there beating their husbands on the racetrack.
That's
So
awesome.
that was fun. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
With your guys' or Nikki's EV, what vehicle did she have before the Model 3?
She had a Honda Civic, a little. I don't remember what year it was, but it was an older used one that she had with 350,000 kilometers on it, kind of thing, that she was just using as a commuter. When she was in New Jersey, she was actually commuting. I don't think it's a massive distance, but like an hour each way to work and back. Basically, just partially due to traffic. Like it'd be like an hour and 5 minutes in the morning in rush hour, and then like 45 minutes home at night. So it's, you want something like a Honda Civic or a Tesla Model 3 for a commute like that. And so yeah. she had the Civic, and I believe it was she didn't buy it new or anything, but it was that's what was getting her by. And I had I had an older Mercedes C300 actually, 4MATIC, which I got rid of shortly after we got her here with her Model 3. We decided to go to running just one vehicle. Mostly due to really only needing one. And yeah, no, for sure. So we shortly after she got here after we got her here, she moved in the fall of 2020, right? What year is it now? Yeah, 2020. In the fall of 2020, in the midst of COVID and regulations and restrictions and all kinds of stuff, we saw an opportunity, and I flew down there, and we put. This is going to answer one thing. We put everything she needed in the car, and we drove it from New Jersey to Alberta.
So was that your first time driving an electric, or?
Yes and no. Essentially, yes. When I'm gonna go back and fill you in on some stuff. Like I said, Nikki and I fostered this friendship / relationship on Facebook, and then I live here in Bonnyville, Alberta. I work in the oil field here, and in the spring and in the fall every year, I go to southern Quebec to help my uncle on his farm. I go farm in southern Quebec every year. So in 2019, maybe it was. Yeah, 2019. In the spring of 2019, just shortly after Nikki had gotten her Model 3, she got it in March 2019. I was going farming in the spring in southern Montreal, and her and I had been fostering this relationship online. But New Jersey is a long ways away from Bonnyville. So I said to her, I'm going to be in Quebec. Come up to the farm. Come visit me. I'll show me your Model 3, and I'll show you some John Deere tractors. It'll be cool. So that was up until that point. I think maybe I'd seen one. Like you just don't see them here. Like Nikki's Tesla is like the first one in Bonnyville, the first EV. And there's actually now two of them since she got here. But I had never seen one up close. I saw one in, I don't remember exactly when it was, but I saw one randomly sitting somewhere in St. Paul, of all places, which is just a town over from us. And it was the first time I'd ever seen one up close. But of course, I like nobody was around. It was just parked on the street. And I just like I drove past and I just like slammed on the brakes. I backed up and I was just like, oh my God, oh, street. Like, and I was just like got out and like just like parked my car in the middle of the street, like got out and I was just like, I'm looking at it and I'm like checking it out. It was so cool. That was the first time I ever saw one up close. Because the Model 3 was still fairly new back then. They weren't very common yet. And I mean, like, every time I go to Edmonton for something, you would occasionally, like, you're cruising on the Henday and you'd see maybe a Model X, or maybe you'd see a Model 3. Like on average, I go to Edmonton and I see anywhere from 0 to 2 or 3 Teslas. Yeah. And every time it's like, oh, Tesla, like that's cool. But you don't get to see the interior. You don't really even get to look at it. Half the time they're filthy because it's Alberta. So it was cool to see one on the side of the street. But yes, Nikki's when she came in the spring of 2019 to visit me in Quebec for just a short 3 days. That was the first time I was able to see one up close. First time I was able to get in one. First time I was able to drive one, and it was pretty remarkable for sure. Made a lasting impression, and I could definitely see why people were getting them.
Nice. And did you find that you had to change the way you drove from a gas vehicle to an electric?
We like now that we like when we drove it across the country from New Jersey to Alberta, she actually drove that whole trip herself. I just sat in the passenger seat and we enjoyed the trip together. It was nice. We took our time. It was great. I did drive it. Like she visited me in the spring 2019, and then that following fall she came for 2 months actually to southern Quebec. And spent 2 months with me on the farm. And so I drove her car a handful of times then too. But, and now since she's been in Alberta with me for the last year and a half almost, obviously I drive it. And I can't really say, like, yeah, you do, I wouldn't say you have to really, it's not something as I wouldn't describe it as being as abrupt as changing the way you drive, but I would say the car changes your relationship with driving, which is based. I mean, I'm splitting hairs. It's basically the same thing. It's just I said it different, but it changes your relationship with travel. It changes the way you look at time frames. It changes. I think it forces you to be more relaxed if possible. Yep. But at the same time, you don't really realize that it had an impact on you until you, my mom has a Chevy Silverado pickup, and I jumped in it. I jumped in it at one point last year to run to town and back for her to pick something up or whatever, and I jumped in it and I got out on the highway and I put my foot down and I was like, whoa, okay, this is very different. Like this is slow. This is, it feels like it feels like strain. It feels like you're pushing this vehicle to do something. Whereas, when you get used to driving an EV, driving becomes really effortless. There's no shifting. There's no like the RPM's going way up and you're like, let's try it so hard. And then it shifts down. And struggle, and then shift down. With the EV, it's a smooth power, 0 to 60, basically as gently or as aggressively as you want to do it. It doesn't really make a difference whether you don't, you're not, like if you floor it or if you don't, the car is the same. Like there's no increased noise, there's no increased strain, it's like, oh, I chose to get to 100 kilometers an hour in 3 seconds that time instead of 8 seconds that time. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't affect your perception of the effort required, because your perception of the effort required is the same regardless. There's no difference. So I don't know if I really answered the question, but I mean, there's my driving style is slightly different. I guess you could say. It's more. I find it more relaxed because you have time. Like if you see a hole in traffic, you don't feel like you're under pressure to get into that hole in traffic because you just put your foot down and the car goes there. Um, you know, like when you're pulling out onto the highway and you see a gap, it's like, okay, I'm gonna go now, and you just bring your car up to speed and you're there. It's not, it's not, listening to the V8 howl and watching the speedometer slowly climb and looking in your rearview mirror as the guy's getting closer and closer, and you're like, oh man, like I kind of cut him off. He's gonna have to slow down. I mean, you can still cut people off with an EV. Don't get me wrong, but but when you have that kind of acceleration and traction, it's freedom. So it's not like I'm out there purposefully cutting people off to see how quickly I can get in front of them. It's mostly just it's a relaxation. Like you pull up the stop sign, you look both ways. Okay, I got a bit of space. Go for it. Bring the car up to speed. Set the cruise. Done. No hassle. No fuss. No screwing around. So it's I would say generally speaking, driving is more relaxing. And I drive for a living. I drive a semi, anywhere from 12 to 15 hours a day. So there's actually a lot of similarities with driving that car to driving the semi, which sounds really, really weird, but I'm talking about the Tesla has a feature which actually the car didn't come with when Nikki bought it, but it came via update at some point since she bought it. It's one pedal driving, which I think the Leaf has, and maybe some others. I don't know. Does the Kona have one pedal driving?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, so you know what I'm talking about then. But as a truck driver, I mean that's essentially what I'm doing. I'm using the transmission, and I'm using the Jacob brake, the Jake brake to slow the truck down. I'm rarely using the brakes, the physical brakes, the air brakes on the semi. And the same thing with the Tesla. I don't touch the brakes. It's relaxing. Like it's fundamentally relaxing. And you don't. It's not a thing where like if you go to the spa and you put yourself in a hot tub, or if you lay on the couch at the end of the day, you're like, I'm relaxing, but when you're driving the EV, you just are relaxed, and you don't think about it because, like one pedal driving, like it's the way I drive all day. I drive that way at work, and then I jump in the car and that's how I drive. You don't have to use the brakes. Thankfully Nikki uses the brakes. Otherwise they would probably seize up, so it's just part of that, part of how it is, driving it is more effortless. You bring it up to speed. You need to stop at a stop sign or a red light. You let off. The car slows down. It comes to a stop. Like it's like as easy as moving your thumb on a controller playing a video game. Like it's nothing. It's and like I said, there's no, like you're not struggling to slow the vehicle down. You're not. I mean, if you want to stop that car, if you've got good traction in the summer and you've got regen braking on full, and you have to stop and you put the brakes on, the car stops. So I guess long-winded answer without actually really answering, but
No,
I think the biggest thing you notice about the biggest difference, I guess, is like a subconscious relaxation. It's just less struggle.
No, and I totally get that. I know the last time we went out to Alberta, we normally do it in one run, and it's normally 16 hours in a gas vehicle. It took us actually 20
Right?
hours in the electric.
That's not bad, actually.
Yeah, well, that was my first long road trip, and so I was a lot more. I was stopping for a lot longer than I needed to. But I noticed when I got to my
Yeah, you're
in-laws,
being conservative. Yeah.
yeah, when I got to my in-laws' place at 20 hours, I was way more awake, way more willing to stay up and chat or whatever than after 16 hours of just pushing it to get to the end type deal. It's
The yeah, that's that like that, and that's another thing too, which I didn't even really touch on. But like, you know, we drove. When I say we, I mean Nikki drove us from New Jersey to here, which is not it's not a short drive. You know, we drove all the way across the states to Montana, and then came north, and and then since then, last fall, so fall 2021, we drove to southern Quebec to go farming in the fall for harvest season, and we stayed there, and we drove back at the end of December, or at the beginning of December. Sorry, we left at the beginning of October and drove back at the beginning of December. So two very different trips, which we can definitely talk about, just due to the change in weather. But when we drove there at the beginning of October, it's a long drive, and you know, we put on 4,400 kilometers on that trip on the way there, and it was much. It was a noticeable difference. I've done that drive before in other vehicles on two separate occasions in my adult life, but it was the autopilot feature of the Tesla. It definitely reduces how exhausted you get tired driving, because you don't consider it, like we don't know it, because that's like when you you know that if you drive for 16 hours you're going to be kind of tired after, but you don't understand why you're tired. It's because you are always doing micro inputs. Your eyes are working always, your hands are working always, your feet are working always. I mean, if you have the luxury, you know, like, I mean, you have cruise control, maybe your feet aren't always working, but your brain's working. And that, people don't appreciate how much that tires you out until you spend, 20 hours straight driving with like 90% of it on autopilot, going across Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, which is basically a straight line, with a few stops for charging. You know, you do that. And I mean, things like driving overnight. I mean, it's not like you're sleeping. You don't, like, you won't catch me spreading that notion that people can sleep on autopilot, but I mean, if you are struggling to stay awake, autopilot will absolutely save your life. So if you're taking some longer blinks, it's much more forgiving. If and it just, you can go a lot further with the same amount of energy that it takes to drive something else. And I mean, lots of vehicles now have a variation of something that is autopilot, lane keep assisting and stuff like that. And I've heard lots of good stuff about some of the other systems for sure. I've only had experience with autopilot, and it's good for things, especially for long trips. It's good. It definitely keeps you. It definitely keeps you more refreshed. You're using a lot less. You're using a lot less energy to travel.
Yeah, and with the charging, you actually can get out for whatever 10, 15, 20 plus minutes and get fresh air, where when you gas up, it's quick 5-minute break, gas up and go. So I found that alone woke me up a lot more. What would you feel, or what would you find is the worst feature of the Model 3 for your guys?
The worst, the worst things are, I have, I don't, one thing I complain about, to Nikki is, uh, small things, but, I wish that you could shut the regenerative braking off, when the roads are glare ice, because, it is a bit aggressive because the Tesla model. Well, the Teslas have two settings for regenerative braking. It's low and standard. Standard is very aggressive. Like it stops you. Like it's like medium to hard braking basically. Like it's good. It's great. But when you've got nothing but traction. But anyway, in winter we set it to low, and I find it still a bit aggressive, and it tends to, the regen only affects the back motor, so it tends to kick the back end around a little bit if you're on ice. Now it's a small amount, and actually we got an update some point this winter, which seems to have decreased that effect. It seems to have finessed or refined, I guess I should say. It seems to have refined that action a little bit, where it seems to, the car seems to know when it's struggling with traction, and it seems to apply less regenerative braking. There's a lot to be said for the car making small refinements and adjustments, that you may not even notice, but I mean, you're getting updates and you're getting improvements, which can be helpful for sure. But that's one thing that kind of, like, I kind of from the beginning, like we got here with it in the fall last year. So this is the second winter here with it, and she's been here only one summer so far. So a lot of winter driving. We didn't get winter tires on it until what was it, early February last year, late January or something. So like the first half of the winter last year, we were running on her all seasons that it came with, which was, you definitely appreciate the winter tires once you put them on. Yep.
Yeah.
It's not I mean, when I was younger, I never, this is kind of like the first set of winter tires I bought for a car. When I was much younger, I just, get decent all seasons and call it good and just struggle with it. Like when we switched to the winter tires, we got a nice set of gently used Michelin Ice X Ice snow tires.
Okay.
That were on factory 18-inch rims, and we use those in the winter. And it was, you definitely notice the difference. The car performs really, really well in the winter with snow tires. It doesn't perform as well with all seasons. And I think part of that is the traction control being so good. So if you have tires that aren't up to the challenge of getting traction, and the traction's never there, the traction control basically just won't let you move. So the issue is if you don't have tires that are gonna give you a little bit of traction, you really got nothing to get going with. You know what I mean? So one of your other guests said something about that on one of your previous episodes there I was listening to last night, and I thought about that, and I was like, yeah. But yeah, so it's you put winter tires on it, and it's a tank in the snow. I'm still hoping we'll get like a big snowfall, maybe a foot plus. But we've got kind of a long driveway, and it drifts in pretty regularly, and the car is having no trouble. And I mean, I couldn't be more pleased with how it does in the snow. We did when we came back from Montreal. The night we left, we drove. We got about as far as, I can't remember if we were just east of Ottawa or just west of Ottawa. We were basically like within the first 6 hours of the trip. We drove into a blizzard, and we were on the Trans Canada Highway, and we were in basically like around, I'd say 6 to 8 inches of snow. Well, 6 inches of snow probably, but the Trans Canada was down. It was down to one lane, and flow traffic was about 60 kilometers an hour. It was us and a few other cars, and everybody was really great. Like, nobody was trying to be a hero. Everybody was just, there was one lane that was kind of beat down, and we were all just going. And there's a Subaru WRX ahead of us. He was kind of leading the pack, and then there was us, and there was there's an Infinity or something behind us, and and we went like that for a few hours, for a couple hours anyway, before I eventually got in behind a plow. But the point is like, if the snow is 6 inches deep, then the ruts on the highway are 12 inches deep, kind of thing,
Yeah.
So one of the things that I dislike about it is the traction control is excellent, but it is, like I said, if you have low traction, it limits you severely. So if you are in a situation where you're on the highway or you're somewhere and you're in deep snow like that, it slows you down a lot. You keep putting your foot down, but it just keeps bogging down more and more and more, because it is trying to keep itself from slipping and pushing. Which that's what one of your guests said something about, was that he felt like when he was in deeper snow, he put his foot down and it just wouldn't go, because it would just keep slowing down. Whereas when you're pushing through deep crap like that, you want to maintain your momentum. You want to keep moving. You want to, like, I don't care if I'm losing a bit of traction at the expense of keeping the car moving. Because if I end up stopped because the traction control just slowly brought me to a stop, that's going to annoy the heck out of me. But I mean, it's obviously not that serious. If you drove into deeper and deeper and deeper snow to the point where the traction control would essentially stop you like that, I don't think it would. I think you'd just get going very slow, and then it would just continue crawling along. But it's that's the concern. Like, you're on the highway, you're on a 2-lane highway that's down to like one trail, and you're doing 60 kilometers an hour, and then you kind of get off into some of the fluff and the powder on the side, and the car just like starts like slowing down and slowing down. And you're like, no, like, I need this momentum. Like, please, like, I want to go. Like, I have to keep moving. Like, don't stop me. But so, I mean, that's not even really a downside, but it's more so like, you just have to change how you think about things when you're driving like that, I guess, because on that same night when we were in that storm, we got behind a snowplow, and he was doing like 30, and we went like that for a while, and we found on the Tesla navigation screen, we found a little brewery just right off the highway. I don't remember where it was off the top of my head, but we were a couple hours, 2 or 3 hours maybe west of Ottawa by that point. And it was a small brewery just off, like, literally right off the highway, with a destination charger. So I was like, okay, our range suffered big time when we're in that deep snow. And we had charged in Ottawa, and I mean, we weren't really necessarily struggling for range. Like, range wasn't the big concern, but I was like, I'm tired of this. We're going 30 kilometers an hour. Like, we're not going anywhere. You know what I mean? Like, we're not getting anywhere. So let's get off the highway. And we kind of saw that as an opportunity to get off the highway. Now the problem then becomes, okay, well, you're following a snowplow. That's great. So, the roads were good behind the snowplow, maybe a little icy, but no snow. Our range was fantastic. We were going 35 kilometers an hour, essentially on smooth ground, versus pushing 60 kilometers an hour, pushing snow with the bumper. That was hurting. We were up to, like 350 kilowatt hours per kilometer of consumption or something. So like we're car was working, doing great, but working. So the problem then becomes, well, we got to get off the highway, but when we go to pull off the highway, we got to push through a 2 foot tall, maybe I'm exaggerating, a 1.5 foot tall like plow ridge, and then into a parking lot, because it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, into a parking lot that's got 8 inches of snow in it. So like, how's that gonna go? You know what I mean? So of course, like, I took my chance, and I hit the plow bank hard and made sure I punched through it, which wasn't a big deal. Snow was fairly light and fluffy. It wasn't too heavy, but the car crawled around in that parking lot in that deep snow, no problem. The traction. This is where the traction control really shines, is at low speeds, and like crawling around in our driveway here. Our driveway drifts in really bad just because of the way the yard is open and the direction the wind comes from and stuff like that. So we get like drifts that come off, like it drifts in front of the garage doors, and then it also drifts where we have to turn around. Like we kind of come in, we turn around, and we back into the garage. So, but you end up having to go through, like on a fairly regular basis, you're going through a foot deep, like you might have a foot of snow in the yard, between clearing it or like more. And the car just crawls. Like it's almost like it's like what I imagine driving a tank would be like, where it's just, or like being on tracks, because like the car just, it just like you can feel the tires like move, stop, move, stop, move, stop. It's like when you're if you're in sand and you see those guys, those YouTube videos or whatever of like guys in like a Tacoma in the sand, and the wheel just moves an inch and then stops and then moves an inch, and they just like, they're just crawling and like, getting that traction every few every second, and just, making the most of every ounce of traction they can gather. And that's what the car does in the snow in the yard. It just crawls along, and it doesn't spin, it doesn't screw around. It doesn't let you can't really, trying to go faster doesn't help you. Because, like I said, our driveway, it's a bit long, and it kind of drifts in deeper in the middle. And I mean, I'd tell Nikki, like, I'm always micromanaging her and trying to give her advice for how to drive in winter, because New Jersey doesn't get winter. It snows like 3 times a year there. And if it does snow a lot, they shut the place down. So I'm always telling her, like hit it hard, make sure you get through. And, but she was generally being a little bit more gentle with it. And I was kind of flipping, because I was trying to push the car too much. So we kind of understood after a point that if you just kind of go 10 kilometers an hour and let the car do its thing, it does fine. And it'll go in a straight line.
It helps teach you patience?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, for sure. And doing longer road trips with it, for sure. People always say, well, what if this, like, what if you need to drive from here to Halifax in 26 hours? How are you going to do that with an EV? It's like, well, how are you going to do that at all? Like, you can barely do that in an airplane, bro. Like what kind of driving are you, like, what kind of marathon driving? When was the last time you filled up your tank with gasoline and drove until that car ran out of gasoline? You've never done that. Nobody does that in an EV. You don't charge up and then go until it's dead on the highway. Nobody does that. Like, nobody drives that way. So yeah, I mean, it's, like I said, it changes your relationship with driving. It forces you to take your time. If you're, the heart and soul of the car is a commuter. It is a commuter car. Like, EVs are commuters. That is what they are. That's what they do best. They're not really road trip cars. They road trip super well. If you are the type of person who can handle road tripping the way an EV road trips, if you have the patience for it. So, when we drove, like, we've driven, it's not fully cross-continent. This is a massive country. If you drive from Halifax to
pretty much across country.
Victoria, yeah. If you drive from like St. John's, Newfoundland to to Victoria, BC, it's like 7,800 kilometers, and but I mean, if we're doing, we're doing 4,400, that's no slouch. But we've driven across the country, across the continent like that 3 times now, and we haven't been pressed. We haven't been, we haven't really been having an issue. It's those edge cases. But I mean, you can have edge cases with any vehicle. Like if you're in a Honda Civic, there's going to be, or if you're in a, if you're in a, anyway, if you're in a car, there's going to be snow that's too deep at some point.
Well,
and I mean,
I drive an F-150 for work. I've been stuck more times and had to get a tow truck more times than, well, I've never called the tow truck for my Kona Electric. So
yeah, I believe that. I believe that 100%, because
they just don't got the weight that the electrics have. That gives you the traction.
Yeah.
And all the computer controls to control traction way better than in a gas vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, you've been to Bonneville. The general attitude of people here. If you don't have a truck, there's like, why are you even here? I mean, like I said before, I had a Chrysler 300 for years, and I had so many of my buddies at work and guys just like, why don't you own a truck? It's like, bro, I drive 30 kilometers to work, or 40 kilometers to work and back every day. Why would I want a truck? But I mean, there is going to be days where the snow is too deep for my rear wheel drive car, and I mean, when you have a pickup, you're not worried about ground clearance, but I mean, I mean, we've had a lot of snow here this year, and I've seen a lot of trucks in the ditch. Not a lot of cars in the ditch. I've seen a few mid-size SUVs. I've seen a ton of pickups in the ditch. I don't think I've seen one car in the ditch. And we certainly are not having problems with our car, even though the ground clearance is low. So if we get heavy snow in the spring, if we get 12 inches of snow in one shot of heavy snow, the ground clearance on that car is going to be an issue. But the ground clearance on any car will be an issue at that time. So being in an EV is not the reason you're stuck. It's because you drive a car. You know what I mean? So,
it's also driving for the conditions. You get the trucks that think I got 4-wheel drive, so I'll just plow through everything and then get into trouble. I know driving at work, there's times I'm crawling at 30, 40 kilometers an hour on the highway with mine, because here in Winnipeg, we've gotten snow this year. Definitely, we got drifts that are 7-10 feet high on some of my work sites. For
sure, yeah. I mean, I guess it's the same all the way across the prairies. But it's been a snowy year. Like we're way above our yearly average so far this year. So, and I mean, we haven't had a lick of problems with getting the car to or from where we need to go. My biggest concern would be things like we had a couple of really warm days, 2 warm days back to back, and it didn't even go below zero overnight there. So we had like a 36 or 48 hour period where it was above zero, and like during the day it was like +8, and that was like almost 2 weeks ago. And they issued an advisory, like the town of Bonneville issued an advisory for people not to stay out of their back alleys, because people are getting they're getting planted in their back alleys, because you punch through the slush, the belly of your vehicle's laying on the ground, and your 4 wheels are sitting there spinning. I mean, that would be a concern for us with our low ground clearance. But I mean, like you say, it's any vehicle. It's being prudent. It's knowing where you can go and where you can't go. It's choosing your line, choosing your do I really need to go there specifically today, or can I just wait a day or two to go there when it's colder, or when the snow clears, or whatever. But as far as, like I said, we're using it as our only car. There's no backup SUV for me to take if it snows 2 feet. So if it snows 2 feet, we're gonna go get the car and see if we can get it stuck. I got to go to work every day. So she drops me off in the morning. She picks me up at night, and she's become a superb winter driver with her little winter tires and her Tesla. You know, she went from New Jersey, you know, where if a snowflake hits the ground, there's like the salt trucks are just rolling, and you know, I mean, you almost have no traction in parking lots because it's like the salt pebbles are like marbles, and it's like you're driving on marbles in the parking lots and they just they salt the heck out of everything. So if it snows, they salt the heck out of everything, and by noon, everything's just it's wet or already dry. Like it doesn't. It's rare for them to have big snow issues, you know, like there. So she went from 0 to 60 on winter, you know, moving. The car is not the limiting factor. You know, so she's doing great being here. She's enjoying it. The car is doing great. It's kind of funny because like we kind of tease, you know, tease her or like people, like I'll say to other people kind of like like ironically or sarcastically, like how it's a California car, you know, like, but I mean this year, compared to the Kenworth I drive, which is like, I mean, that's a workhorse. That's up on the ice roads in Fort McMurray and, you know, like, you know, minus 60, blah, blah, blah. Like that thing is a California truck. Like there's so many things about that thing that I'm just like, why is this like this? You know, like we spent so much money on this truck. Why can't the windshield stay clear if it's drizzling, you know, at minus 10? Like why is the whole windshield ice? Like why doesn't the heat blow where you're looking? It blows to either side. Like why doesn't the windshield stay? Like this is a California truck. The Tesla on the other hand is not. It does fine. The frameless windows would be a bit of an issue if we are fortunate to be garage parked. But if you were parked outside, when she came, the first year she came to visit me in the fall in Quebec, like I said earlier, we had a good big snowstorm and the car was parked outside. I bought when I knew she was coming, I bought an adapter and to plug it into a welder, like a welder outlet, 220 welder outlet.
Yep.
For her to use when she was there for 2 months in the fall of 2019, and so we were charging it, but we were running the cord outside because there's no space to put it inside because on the farm there, you know, you use all that roof space for equipment. So the car is outside but plugged in. So we had one point there where it snowed a pile and it was like, you know, wet. It started as rain and then it switched to wet snow and it's freezing. So I mean, like the whole car was an ice block. But and of course the place where we park it to charge is like on the one side of a building and it just drifts right in. So it like drifts up to the door handles. All the glass surface on it is ice. And of course I made the mistake of trying to saw it with the cabin preheating. So that just kind of almost made things worse because I tried doing it like while the storm was going, which was a mistake. If I could have, but at the time we're very new to it, and I was just like, oh yeah, we'll use this. That'll be good. It'll keep it clear. But no, it melted it enough, and then it refroze. So it was, you know, we took. But I mean, like what you take I mean, people act like they've never had to shovel a truck out of a snowbank, or they've never had to, you know, take an ice scraper and chip 3 inches of ice off a windshield or something, you know. So yeah, I mean, we went out there with a hairdryer and warmed up the door handles and the charge port and so you get the charge port to shut and get the door handles to open, because I mean the door handles are pretty susceptible to any type of moisture and freezing combination, and you know, like the windows and stuff. Like the windows, if the window can't come down when you open the door handle, then you got to like rip it out of the door frame because it has to come down in order for it to open. So you know, you have to. So we just take a blow dryer out there, spend half an hour. I didn't shovel it out. It was parked in a 2-foot snowdrift. I just drove it out, and that was before it had winter tires. That was on the all season. But it was sitting on relatively dry ground because it was parked on dry gravel. It was the first snow of the year, and I mean there was like 2 feet of snow in front of it. And I just got in and I'm tired of screwing with this. It's time to like I've been working at this thing with a blow dryer for half an hour. It's time to go. So I just put your foot down and away she went. But but it was like things like that, and I mean one of your other guys there, Bill or Ian, said something about the frameless windows. So I mean that's definitely a thing, and we are very fortunate to be garage parked here. It's not a heated garage. But it does get us out of any situations with freezing rain or when it's kind of warm and it's snowing, you get issues like that. But we're fortunate. We're fortunate for that.
And I know with me,
but I mean,
have a fence. My charger's on a fence. I park outside all the time, but I have it preset to every morning. It warms up so that when I leave, everything's all nice and warm. And I was home for holidays at Christmas time, and I didn't turn it off, and so it would melt all the snow off the window, come down, freeze on the windshield wipers, and then with staying home for like 5 days before going out, it turned into just a big block of ice. So I had to actually bring out a heat gun to melt that. But I would have that issue. I guess I wouldn't have that issue with a gas vehicle because it wouldn't be nice and warm every morning. But
you wouldn't have that. You wouldn't have that issue because you wouldn't have the luxury of just randomly heating it up every morning. Exactly. So I mean, it's one of those things where like people are like, oh, how can you drive this car in the winter in Alberta? It's like, well, actually, this is the best winter vehicle I've ever driven / owned. Like by a wide margin. It could be sitting outside at minus 60 and you could get in it and just drive away with it. Like I don't understand like what people think these cars do. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing like you don't have to start something. You don't have to it just runs. Like when you take your and I mean people are like, oh well, what about the battery? What about the range? It's like, yeah, we lose range for sure. That is the biggest concern. But I mean, how many days of the week or how many days of the month are you consistently meeting 300 kilometers? It's like very few. How many days are you needing 500 kilometers? We're lucky. The timing worked out very nicely for us. Tesla put in a supercharger in Lloydminster in the fall. When we drove from here to Quebec in October, there was not a supercharger in Lloydminster or North Battleford or Saskatoon. So when we drove to Quebec, we drove to Edmonton, which is the wrong direction, Red Deer, and then over to Bassano, which is just east of Calgary, and then Swift Current and so on, Regina, to get onto the Trans-Canada Highway where the superchargers are. So, we added maybe 10 hours to our trip, 8 hours of driving and 2 hours of charging or something like that. That's very rough numbers. Don't quote me on that. But we maybe added. I think we actually added 8 hours is what it was. 7 hours of driving and 1 hour of charging. Yeah, that's what it was. Anyway, on the way back, we went from Regina to Saskatoon, North Battleford, Lloydminster, home, because they added that supercharger. So in the summer last year, like I said, I drive a Kenworth. Closest Kenworth dealership is Lloydminster. We take the Kenworth there for servicing, things like that. So in the summer, we do that round trip with the car, no problem. A little bit to spare. We charge the car typically to 85 or 90% every night. You wake up and you've got X amount of kilometers of range. Um, and people don't like people just want to say like, oh well, you know, you won't be able to do this. It's like, yeah, but how many days of the year are you doing that? Like, you're not doing that. Like, you never do that. Why would you? So, I mean, if everything lines up, but like this long-winded story I'm on is like in Lloyd with there was no charger there in the summer. We were able to round trip in the summer. If they hadn't put a charger in there, we wouldn't be able to do it in the winter. That's the limiting factor with range in the winter. It's just like the mileage is just enough from home. We wouldn't be able to feasibly do it in the winter. They have level 2 chargers at the Hyundai dealership, at the Dodge dealership, which they're a bit stingy about. We found out, and there's also one at PV Mart. But we're talking like if it was like -40 and we were going to Lloydminster, you'd be spending like 6 hours there before you could safely have margin to go home. I think.
I know
or 4 hours. So
Saskatoon to Cold Lake, those PV Marts are quite the
godsend. Yes. Yes, no, for sure. And I mean, we use you get Plug Share.
Yeah.
You download Plug Share if you're going anywhere, and you have to go through the reviews, make sure things are working and things like that. I mean, one of the most underrated features of owning a Tesla is the supercharging network. It is it's such a selling point, especially being out here in the West. Like where Nikki's from in New Jersey. Like New Jersey is 1/38 the size of Alberta, and they have double our population. If you trip, you will fall on a supercharger location. They're everywhere. When she was driving, she was commuting an hour, and she had basically an option of 3 to charge at. When she bought her car, she was living in an apartment, so she was not charging at home. She did all of her charging at superchargers. For the first, year and a half of that car's life, she charged at superchargers, other than the time she spent with me in Quebec. But I mean, as you drive west, they just get fewer and farther between. But there's more going in every day. When you, if you imagine a world where suddenly there are very few gas stations, like very few gas stations. Like there's maybe one in Edmonton. There isn't one in Bonnyville. There's one in Lloydminster. You know what I mean? Like there's very few. Like what are you gonna do? Are you gonna, like, as a society, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna put 300-gallon gas tanks in a Honda Civic? Or are you gonna build more gas stations? Like, what are you gonna do? Like, we don't need EVs with 600 miles of range. We don't need 800 kilometers of range. We just need more gas stations. I don't imagine we'll ever see a Tesla supercharger in Bonnyville. We don't need one here. The car does fine without it. People underestimate what it's like to wake up every morning with a full tank of gas in your car. We charge to 85-90%. If we need to go to Edmonton or if we need to go to Lloydminster, you wake up, your alarm goes off. First thing you do, you reach over to the app, you slide it from 90% to 100%. By the time you're done eating breakfast and getting ready to go, it's at 100%. You strike off. Like we took my California Kenworth. We took the Kenworth to Lloydminster in December. Between December and January, we took the Kenworth in Lloydminster 4 times. And on a couple of those occasions, it was -40. Like not, oh, he's exaggerating, it's -37. I'm talking like -40. And we didn't have problems. Nikki was fine. She didn't die. It definitely gets a little bit, it gets a bit challenge. One thing is the car, you're sitting in a glass dome. It has a lot of, like, there's no roof. It's a glass roof. So the car loses heat. You lose heat through the glass. So, I mean, you wear your jacket in the car, you run the heated seats. You run the heater in such a way that it can keep the glass clear, and it's maybe +10 in the car. Like you're not driving in shorts and a t-shirt in that car when it's that cold. but it does it, and you don't have to really worry about it because like um like there's nothing to go wrong on it. Like what's gonna break? Like is the what breaks down on that car? Like there's nothing to it.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of batteries and a drive and two drive motors. So but the car does, like I said, when it's that temperature, the car did fine. And we were fortunate that Tesla got their Lloydminster superchargers installed this fall, because we were able to drive to set the car to 100 in the morning, drive the Kenworth and the Tesla in convoy down to Lloydminster, um, drop the Kenworth off, swing over to the superchargers, which are conveniently located next to an A&W, and plug the car in, or swing through the drive-through, plug the car in. By the time you're done eating, you're essentially done. You charge for 15 to 20 minutes, 25. Like, I mean, it's like people are just like, it freaks people out just because they don't understand how relaxed it is. If you want to be safe, you just charge a bit more. Like we don't take unnecessary risks with ours, because why would you? It's like if you were at a gas station and you knew you had to go 200 kilometers. Do you put in enough gas to go 200 kilometers, or do you just fill the tank? No, you just fill the tank. You don't think about it. So I mean, you don't. That's kind of where the comparison ends, because you don't fill the tank on the EV, because that's silly. But like if we, you look at your navigation and the car tells you exactly what you need to get home. So you look at your navigation and you charge, and the car says, okay, now you'll arrive at home with 10%. Okay, well, we're going to take more than that. Now you'll arrive at home with 15, 20. Okay, 20 is a nice safe margin. So, you strike off and it's minus, 40 still, 38, whatever. And you arrive at home with, maybe 15% or something. But it's nice and safe. That way, if you get blown off the road into a snowbank, you can sit there and run the heater for a few hours. You've got a safety buffer. It's a safety buffer. Like you don't fill gas tanks for only what you need. You fill them to have buffer, so that you can go where you need to go, plus account for the unknown. And I mean, that's how we drove home from Quebec last fall. When we drove there in the spring, when we drove there in October, it was nice. We drove through Winnipeg. It was plus 33 that day. And I was thinking about my poor winter tires. They're going to melt in the pavement. Oh my God, why did I put these winter tires on? I knew it was a mistake. No, I put the winter tires on before I left, because I knew coming back it was going to be winter. Yeah. So, it was hot. We drove there. We used autopilot like 80% of the trip. Driving back, it was winter. Driving around the Great Lakes, it was cold. It was minus 25. We were driving in snow. We were driving on ice-covered roads. I don't use cruise control when it's icy like that. You can most likely get away with it on that car, because it does handle really well, but I don't. It might be because I'm
it's
older.
That you drive all the time, so you want to feel it start slipping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I'm doing a better job. I feel like cruise control can get you into trouble. Because I mean, I have experience with that. I've put cars off the road because they were in cruise control on icy conditions, in my younger days. So, but anyway, so coming back, you're in the cold, and you don't skip superchargers. You could, the car will tell you can. You can charge to 100% at supercharger A, and then go to supercharger C. But it's much more efficient to just charge to 70 or 80% at supercharger A, stop at supercharger B for 10, 15 minutes, and then stop at supercharger C for 10, 15 minutes, instead of spending an hour. Like, people don't realize, because everybody's like, oh, well, how long does it take to charge from 0 to 100%? It's like, bro, I'm not using the bottom 20% of my battery, and I'm not using the top 20% of my battery. We're using the middle 60%. because there's just no reason to use those other parts. I mean, you're like that's your reserve for emergencies, you know. So, but yeah, when we came back, there was only one stretch that was concerning, and it was between Sault Ste. Marie and Wawa. It was cold that night, and it was minus 25. There may have been some wind we were pushing into, and I think a lot of it's uphill. And we charged like 98 or 99% in Sault Ste. Marie. I think it's Sault Ste. Marie and Wawa. Somebody's going to know. Somebody who listens to this is going to be like, what the heck is he talking about? But anyway, it's a long stretch it's one of the longer stretches between two superchargers. And ironically, actually, the longest stretch between superchargers on that whole trip is basically between Bonnyville and Edmonton on the way there. On the way back between Lloyd and home is shorter. But anyway. But yeah, that stretch in the dark and the cold was concerning because that like range was an issue for that leg. We charged as much as because you know when you're at 100%, that's it. So you go and you conserve range where you can, and you just if the car says it can do it, you trust the car to do it. So the car seems to have. I'm all over the place here, but the car seems to have updated on one of the updates. It seems to have gotten a little bit better. I remember earlier I mentioned the car getting better at using its traction control with regenerative braking. It seems to have also maybe gotten a little bit better at predicting its range over distances, because it seems like now. Because like I said, I mean, the Kenworth's been breaking down, and we've been going back and forth to Lloyd constantly this winter, basically since we got back from Quebec. And so we've had the opportunity to kind of notice some things, and it seems like the car now, like if it says, you'll arrive with 20%, you basically arrive there with like 18 or 19%. It's much closer. Whereas when we were in Quebec, coming home from Quebec in early December, which not that long ago, I'm talking like 2.5 months ago, the car behaved differently then because it, like I said, I believe an update adjusted things, but if it said you'd get there with 20%, you'd maybe get there with 10 or 9. We arrived in Wawa at the charger with 8%, which is a ton of margin still. Like that, I don't know how many kilometers 8% is on that car. I'd have to go and look, but it would be something like 60 kilometers according to that car, which is really a ton of margin, but that's narrow for the way we drive. So yeah. We're conservative, with our charging, and I mean it has kept us out of trouble this far. But I mean, like, we're not scared to go places. Alberta's got double the chargers now that it had when Nikki, and I mean, I'm just talking Tesla superchargers. There's tons of other chargers showing up everywhere all the time. The high school here in Bonnyville put in a charger. I don't remember what the brand name is of it. I think it's made by Leviton or whatever, the company that makes like light bulbs and switches. But anyway, like there's one at the high school here. Like are we ever going to use it? No. Is anyone ever going to use it? Probably not. But it's here.
Right.
Like if you were driving, exactly. You might.
And I guess
you might.
That's where it would be nice to see Tesla or a level 3 charger in a place like Bonnyville, as it helps tourists more. And that's, I guess, going with that article that was being talked about yesterday, where I kind of met Nikki. It's Bonnyville needs level 3 chargers just for people like me coming in. My family, the closest they have is a welder plug, or like in Cold Lake, my in-laws have a heater plug that I just use adapters for. But it'd be nice to just have a level 3 charger that I could actually quickly get it taken care of, instead of that slow level 2 charger. But for tourists, right? That's tourists and hockey players out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean anybody who wants to travel. I mean we once we got a 220 volt outlet set up here in the garage, we the first little while that the car was here, we were charging on 110 in the winter. We got here the first in the fall with it in 2020, and I didn't get that outlet put in until I don't know, January or something. So we went 2 or 3 months um, in fairly cold weather with 110, which you can't do. Like it's not feasible. It just charges too slowly. You have too much loss. It's too inefficient, and it takes too long, and your range loss and everything. Like it's only 10 or 13 kilometers. Like we only drive like 8 or 10 kilometers to work. But due to the fact that it's making 2 round trips a day, charging on 110, it was you just weren't gaining enough when it was super cold. And the problem was with the garage not being heated. The car would when it was very cold outside, it's still like -10 in the garage. The car just wasn't really gaining. It was just maintaining, being plugged into 110. So you need 220. But anyway, so when we got 220 set up here, ever since then, it's been basically as far as you want to, if you want to go to Cold Lake, do shopping, whatever, come home, plug it back in. We haven't had any issues. But I put us on. I did put us on PlugShare because I wanted people like you and anyone else who wanted to come through the area to have another option, because there's I think one of the hotels here
Yeah.
offers charging for if you plan on sleeping here overnight or whatever. And the Chrysler dealership here, they have a J.
It looks like they've blocked it though. So
Oh, maybe they have now.
It looks like it's restricted. It's listed as.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. The one in Lloydminster was the same. They use it during the day. You can't use it, but at night usually you can. I think is kind of how they have it set up. Because they have a silly hybrid minivan shuttle that they leave plugged into it during the day so that people can't use it. We actually went there to use it, to check it out, and to review it on PlugShare in the summer last year when we were in Lloydminster before the superchargers were put in, and we went and plugged in, and after about half an hour they shut the breaker off, so we left. It's disappointing to see that because those people are getting federal grants to put chargers in, or those corporations, I should say, those dealerships are getting either corporate or federal or a combination of both grants to put those chargers in, and I think they should be letting people use them. I think that's the point.
And that's what I really like about Tesla, with them actually taking from that federal money, putting in chargers like the one in Lloyd, where they put in chargers, and then I think they're flow chargers, but they have 2 other level 3 chargers that I can then use, right?
Yeah, I think they're flow. I think they're flow. Honey, at the float, is it Lloydminster besides the superchargers or flow chargers? I think. Pretty sure, yeah. Anyway, and I mean like I said, we've used the chargers in Lloyd a handful of times since coming back from Quebec, and on the odd occasion, there's been another Tesla there with us. I think one of the last times we were there's a fellow charging. I think it was a Prius or a Leaf or something at the flow chargers. That was cool. So because we just use superchargers. We don't visit these other chargers, so we don't get to really see other people charging. So when we were on our way to Quebec in October, a number of the supercharger locations had, like some of the supercharger locations had the new Petrocan level 3 chargers, which I think are like Cadmium or CCS or something.
Yeah, they're Chatham, Ohio.
Um,
Yes,
yeah, okay. Yeah, so we got some pictures of the car with those, just for kicks or whatever. But like, there's no real reason for us to use them. No reason for us to block them from being used by somebody else. So, but yeah, no, it's good to see them going in. And like I said, like there's way more. The car's been in Alberta for a year and a half, and I think there's double the superchargers in Alberta now than there was when she got here. Like there's
yeah,
Lloydminster, there's Vegreville, there's Edson, there's Jasper. Those four just came in this fall, and I mean it's what you like to see because um, we I'm not eager to say we can't go places with this car because it's an EV, but that's the fact. When you live out here in the West, everything is really far apart. Things are spread right out. Like Nikki being from New Jersey, she can't believe the wide open spaces here. Like all this, like you drive between Bonneville and Edmonton. There's nothing between Bonneville and Edmonton. There's Smoky Lake, West Etna, Spedden, if that counts, Vilna. Like those towns are not like they're gas stations along the way. There's nothing in between those 2 points. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
um, so anyway, yeah, we need more chargers, but I mean, it's coming. Everything's coming, and you just got to be patient because we, for the first year of having a car here, we couldn't have gone to Jasper with it. Well, I shouldn't say we couldn't have. We couldn't have done it conveniently.
Yeah.
So I have a metric ton of respect for the people who went all in, paid big money for things like the Tesla Model S 60, back in 2012, 2013. And I mean, those guys still have their cars on the road now, and I mean, they're getting like 150 kilometers on a charge, but they're still cruising around. They're still commuting. They've got 500,000 kilometers on their car, And the guys running the first generations of Leaf and Bolt, those people with those cars, they paved the way for what you and I are driving today. I mean, with Tesla specifically, if people hadn't been willing to inconvenience themselves, we wouldn't have the luxury of driving this amazing car today because it wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just really just depends on your attitude. Like if you're willing to say, I want to do something for the environment. I want to contribute to the greater good. I want to have a cool car. I want to have something that none of my neighbors have. It doesn't matter what your outlook is, but if you're like these people that were willing to, I mean, I think they're largely rich people. If they want to still go to Jasper, they just jump in their BMW SUV and they went, But like the fact of the matter is, like those people who bought those early cars here in Alberta, like anybody driving an older Tesla in Alberta, they're heroes because they are directly responsible for what you and I are driving today. It wouldn't exist. We wouldn't have it.
In the year and a half that Nikki has had the Model 3 up there, have you guys had any servicing done on it?
We have. We have taken it for service twice. And we've paid $0 for maintenance on that car so far. When the first winter it was here, when it first got ridiculously cold. Now, keep in mind, Nikki's Model 3 it's a late 2018. She bought it in March of 2019, but it's like a December 2018, which is it's like 15 months into them building Model 3. So it's a fairly early model. It's not the beginning, but they're not what they are now. Anyways, my point. So the first time it got really, really, really cold here, we had a warning light come up saying drive motor something, request service. So you jump on the app, you request service. And we had to go to Calgary. We had to drive 6 hours to go to the service center, which some people would absolutely lose their minds about. But it's pleasure to drive, so who cares? You take a day. We drove to Calgary, charged in Edmonton, charged in Red Deer. Got to the service center in Calgary. They said, "Yeah, bring it in." They said it's a known issue. We have a replacement part on hand for it. It's just those early ones, the drive motor oil pump in them was weak. So when it got cold and your oil was a little thicker, it just threw a fault. So bring it in. We gave them the car. They gave us a Model 3 standard range in a nice, pretty red color that was filthy to go drive around. We went and washed it, and we went and cruised around Calgary for a couple hours. And they let us know the car was done. We came back, we got it. It was a warranty item, and we were really happy. And we carried on, and then we had something else. The last summer, when it got warm, the front suspension started squeaking on it. It actually kind of started squeaking kind of around the same time we brought it back from getting that Calgary service work done. But I mean, like that trip to Calgary, we made a day out of it. When we got the car back, we ran to Banff real quick. Took a couple of pictures with the mountains, saw some elk. We came home. It was a big day. It was like a 17-hour day or something.
Yeah.
But they charged it for us when it was in service. So we left the service center with full batteries. We charged in Canmore, we charged in Red Deer, we charged in Edmonton, and we got home. The whole trip, it was a long day. There was some time lost charging, but not that much really. We put on a ton of kilometers. It cost us like $30. But anyway, we had the suspension started squeaking on it. So we booked service again for it. And by this time, the service center in Edmonton was open and running. So, I mean, like with Tesla, one thing we've noticed about having the car here is like things are improving, like things are getting easier, things are getting better. There's more chargers. Like the charger in Lloyd is a game changer for us. Service center in Edmonton, great. We don't have to use up quite as much of a day to we don't have to have a 20-hour day to go get service done if we need it. I was concerned about how much it was going to cost to replace suspension. I was like, why are we replacing suspension on a 2-year-old car? Like I was mad. And we took it there, and they and I mean the way Tesla works is you make your service appointment on the app, and then they order all the parts that they think they could maybe need based on your description of what's wrong with it. And our description of what's wrong with it was it makes a sound, like it squeaks when you drive sometimes. And which, I mean, they're like, oh God, okay, like, all right. But anyway, so Nikki did a great job. She sent them like some video clips, so they could kind of hear it squeaking, whatever. Anyway, but and then they send you the bills for what it's going to cost for these parts, and it's like, $1,000 or something, and you're just like throwing up in your mouth. And anyway, so we took it there, and sure enough, I mean, they had it for a little while, and they said, yeah, we replaced the upper control arms on it, both of them. One of them was shot, and I guess the early cars, the boot for the joint at the top would leak and let you'd get some grit inside, and then it would wear and you would get a squeaking, chirping sound. I think it was either Bill or Ian on one of your episodes mentioned that it was an internal service bulletin. And what our experience was, because what they said to us was, we're going to replace this. We replaced this out of goodwill, is what they said. Goodwill. Yeah, they didn't use the word warranty because the car is out of warranty. But they said we're going to replace it out of in good faith. And I said to Nikki on the way home, I said, they know about this. Like, this is not it's not a failed part. It's a known issue. And they had to have recognized that, and they replaced it, because it's probably one of those things where internally Tesla's like, we're not recalling these, but if anybody in this VIN range comes in, replace it for free, because we know that the earlier generation of those parts were not durable. So we've had the car in service. We've had stuff replaced on it. Nikki had it in service in New Jersey, the first time it ever went to service, for a little piece broke inside the charge port, and she could still charge it, but there was a little piece that had broken off. It was like a little piece of plastic insulator or something, and they had somebody came to her work, and they replaced the whole charge port and wiring harness. And so those 3 times are the 3 times it's been in service, and we have paid $0. And the thing that after the 3rd time with the suspension, I was relieved not to have to pay for it. And it also made me, I realized something. I said, wait a minute, like, when these 3 things were replaced, each of those 3 times, they didn't replace it with the same part. They had a new updated part that was better, that fixed the problem, and they replaced it with a new part. You take any other vehicle somewhere, and they will replace it with the same part, because they want you to come back and they want you to replace that same part 5, 10, I'm exaggerating, 50 times during the lifetime of a vehicle, because they make their money on servicing these pieces of junk. Like the Kenworth that makes my living. It's meant to run 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, put on a massive amount of kilometers. You just have to keep replacing the same parts over and over and over. Kenworth has made no effort to improve anything. You spend $225,000 for a truck, and you get the same junk every time, and it doesn't get better. So the biggest thing that struck me about the things that we took this car in for service was, okay, the car, it's a new thing. They just came out at the tail end of 2017, October, November or something. And they had some parts on there that just weren't up to the task. They might have been fine in California. I mean, New Jersey, there's no grit on the roads in New Jersey. There's no sand. There's no gravel. There's no dirt. Cars stay clean. They don't even have car washes there, bro. Like, I'm serious. Like, it's just, like, it's night and day. So, I mean, these cars, are they ideal for here? I don't know if I'd say ideal, but they definitely work. And the fact of the matter is Tesla as a brand, they are determined to improve their product. And I won't be taking that car back for another set of control arms, probably ever. Unless I get in the habit of smoking speed bumps at 120 kilometers an hour for fun, or taking it on jumps or something. Yeah, or move to Winnipeg. Yeah, exactly. So, but I mean, like, my point is because I mean, if it had been a different scenario, like, you take your car for something that's warranty, if, like on the Kenworth, or on any vehicle, you've got 100,000 kilometers of warranty. You have a part that fails at 90,000 kilometers, you get it replaced on warranty, and then at 180,000 kilometers it fails again. It's not warranty then. But why did that fail twice? Why wasn't it replaced with a superior part for the first time? I don't know why. It's because of the economy of vehicle sales. So yeah, to answer your question, yeah, we have had it service for sure. We've had to drive all the way to Calgary once. We've had to drive all the way to Edmonton once. I mean, people say, like, well, what are you going to do if it breaks down? Like, bro, like, what do you think's going to happen to it? Like, if I have to get brakes or tires put on this car, I can take it anywhere in town that does brakes or tires. It's just a car. It's not special. We had
there's other specialty vehicles there, Mercedes and all that, where if it breaks down and needs to get towed, it gets towed to Edmonton or wherever, right? It's
Yeah, for sure.
the same thing with these. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if we have to, if something goes wrong with it, I mean, it's still fairly new. I can't be too cocky about it. I mean, of course, there's potential for things to break down, but there's like a tenth of the moving parts in one of these cars than there is in anything internal combustion. I mean, electronics last a long time. I mean, if they're built properly, I mean, how many people, you're in my age. I'm assuming we're kind of close to the same age. Our parents maybe still have a microwave or a stove or a refrigerator or a washer or dryer. It was bought in the 70s. Those have little computer chips in them. They're still running. They're doing fine. You can't get anything with that quality now, but the point remains the same. Like the car's gonna go a long time. We're not too concerned about it. I mean, battery degradation is going to be a limiting factor potentially at some point. But at the rate that chargers are the rate that more chargers are being added, will probably rise to meet that challenge. Like if we suddenly need, the charger in Vegreville, like if we, Bonneville to Edmonton, and I mean the supercharger location in Edmonton is garbage. It's like it's in the south end at the Southgate Mall, which is like way inside the city. It's not convenient to get to. But if it's like stupid cold out, like if it was minus 40, I would probably hesitate to make that jump, because there's very few scenarios where you would absolutely have to go that day. And if that was the case, it would be a bit sketchy. The car should, on paper, be able to do it, but if you get into a headwind, if you get into some deep snow or any kind of real snow, it would be nerve-wracking. However, they just put in a supercharger in Vegreville. We can detour through Vegreville to get to Edmonton. It's an extra 15 minutes. But now, if it's minus 20, we just go straight to Edmonton. If it's minus 40, we go through Vegreville. Like, am I inconvenienced? Barely. It's so like any problems, like in the future, if this car, I fully expect that we could run this car for 10 plus years. We've got 120,000 kilometers on it right now. And it's cost us nothing but a few jugs of windshield washer fluid, and we replaced the tires once so far. And we, and I kind of expect it to continue like that. I don't expect there to be any big ticket items. There's a good chance that some little things like maybe a window solenoid or, there's some little electronic stuff that, I mean, any vehicle has that stuff. You can, the switch to lift to run your power locks or your windows on your Silverado could go at any day. And you'll have to take it to Chevy and they'll charge you $500 to fix it. That's not an EV thing. That's a car thing. That's a vehicle thing. That's a vehicle problem, So, but yeah, I expect to get a lot of mileage out of this car. And I'm not too worried about it. If the car ends up having only a 200 kilometer range by the time it's 10 years old, down from the 500 it had when it was new, we'll have to stop in Vegreville to charge on our way to Edmonton every time, not even in the summer, not just when it's stupid cold. And when it is minus 40, maybe we just won't go to the city that day. Same as we did now before the Vegreville supercharger was put in. Maybe we just won't go that day. The odds are slim that you will have to go somewhere on that day. And I mean, my last car, my Mercedes, the heater fan motor started acting up on it, where the heater would randomly shut off, and I ended up having to drive it to Edmonton for service. And I drove it to Edmonton for service on a day that it was minus 40, with a potentially about to quit at any minute heater motor. So that's serious. Like that's, what I mean? But that was the day my appointment was, and I don't get too much time off work. So that's when I took it. You don't have to take those risks, but I took that risk and it worked out for me. I could have ended up stranded on the side of the road without heaters, but anyway, it's not a lot of the issues that people like to bring up. They're not going to be EV issues. They're just going to be just general vehicle issues.
Yeah.
That everybody has, like what happens if you run out of battery on the side of the highway? Well, what do you do when you run out of gas, bro? Just call somebody. Like, we'll just call for a flatbed. Get them to bring it back to us. Roll it into the garage. Plug it in. The end.
Exactly. Now, I do thank you for your time. And so I'm going to stop. I want to thank Colin for his time and all the great information about operating the Model 3 in extreme cold weather. If you guys do want to hear more about his adventures, the drag racing with the Model 3, let me know. You guys can reach out to me on Twitter at EV_North. You could reach out to me on Facebook at TrueNorthEV. Email TrueNorthEVpodcast@gmail.com. And all that stuff is going to be in the little description. Yeah, so any other info you guys want to hear about, anything you want me to talk about, just let me know. And I thank you guys so much for your time. I know this was a little longer episode than normal, but there was just so much great information. It was such a great conversation with Colin. I would highly recommend you guys go check out Kilowatt Podcast and go check out EV Revolution for the latest on car reviews. He's been going to, so go check out Ken at EV Revolution. And you guys have yourself a great week.